Sometimes it happens that a person finds themselves in the wrong place. It usually doesn't end well. Aulus Vitellius, who governed the Roman Empire for only 6 months in 69, was just such a man. He was born into a rider family of senatorial dignity during the reign of Emperor Tiberius. Young Aulus was not distinguished by any outstanding qualities, except for a taste for luxury and a good meal, but what Roman does not like good food? Almost all his career at the initial stage he was obliged to his father, although evil tongues claimed that it was all because of a cute face or ass, Aul, attracted to Tiberius. Nevertheless, it is the influence of his father explains the rather rapid career of Aulus, and in 36 years, according to other data in 33, which is very early, as praetorship could not be obtained before 30 years, he became consul. But just 3 years later, the Vitellius family would be in disgrace because of a bet on the wrong candidate for the throne. Aulus, who after his father's death became the head of the family, sided with the son of Emperor Claudius, Britannicus, while the race for the throne with the help of poison won stepson Nero. The only way to get out of disfavor was to find an influential patron, and such for Vitellius was Nero's tutor, the philosopher Seneca. Since there was nothing else but dog loyalty to Avlu was not to offer, he became one of the most ardent supporters of Nero in the Senate. Ardent, but not the most intelligent and successful, as such a position gained him many detractors, and worst of all, such loyalty was not appreciated by Nero. When in 65 years uncovered a plot by Pison to kill the enemy of humanity, Nero, a member of which allegedly was, and Seneca, ties with the disgraced philosopher, became dangerous. Nero would not determine exactly who Seneca's allies were loyal to, and so Vitellius fell into disgrace again. Vitellius's family was not only cut off from all magistracies, but probably also subjected to confiscations, because by the end of Nero's reign, Aulus was living a miserable existence. His city dwelling he rented, and he and his family were living in the attic. Meanwhile, Nero's repression and constant "no money but you hold on" led to the fact that the legions began to revolt. First in Germany, then in Spain, and the cherry on the cake was the betrayal of the army sent to suppress the rebellion. As a result, Nero was killed by his own praetorians, and the Senate elected as emperor the governor of Tarracona, Spain, Galba. Galba needed his own man as governor of Germany, but too independent or popular candidate was unnecessary and even dangerous. Suddenly he would want to reign and own everything. That's when one of Galba's advisors remembered Vitellius, a lowly bankrupt man with minimal influence. Just what we needed. Appointment as viceroy was a salvation for Aulus, as his situation was so dire that he had to sell a family heirloom in order to leave decently to the province. The new emperor Galba came from an ancient patrician family, and therefore believed that since the Senate elected him, it was time to tighten the screws, so that everything was according to the law. Galba even refused the legions and donations, believing that it would be a purchase of loyalty, and we have here the law and order. But only the army did not really understand all this. The legions and the viceroys who supported Galba, or showed friendly neutrality during the rebellion, expected some kind of donations, but received only demands not to rock the boat. Vitellius, arriving in Germany, was surprised to find that a revolt was being prepared in the legions entrusted to him. The fact that as governor they were sent to know Vitellius was very convenient. The officers of the legions simply put him before the fact that he is either with them or dead. Since Aulus had no trumps in his hands and no cards at all, he really was by that time, although generic but nothing. So it was stupid to resist, and he accepted the rules of the game. According to Suetonius, one night, legionaries simply dragged Vitellius out of his tent and declared him emperor, and he did not resist it. In the further campaign against Galba, and then his murderer Othin, Vitellius remained in the background, handing over the leadership of the war to his commanders, and only when the outcome became clear did he finally arrive in Italy. Vitellius did not even try to suppress acts of looting and pillaging of soldiers, but at the same time announced the restoration of the rule of law. But this legality was peculiar. All key posts in the state were given to officers of the German legions and their allies. New praetorians were recruited from soldiers and officers of the same legions. And what about the emperor? and he, in the new conditions, had rather representative functions, depending entirely on his former subordinates. Therefore, in addition to regular visits to the Senate, where Vitellius even allowed opposition speeches, it should be taken into account that he could not even forbid them. The main content of his rule were feasts. No, not so. Feasts. The emperor ate a lot and with fancy, liked to taste all kinds of exotic food. Such feasts were not cheap for the treasury, but much more expensive was the corruption of his cronies. They decided to step on Galba's rake and inform the provinces that there would be no donations again. They were guided not by an idealistic understanding of the law, but by banal greed. Greed, as we know, does no good. Here and the legions of the East decided that since the new emperor cannot satisfy their simple requests, it is time to offer their own. Vespasian. The situation of 3 months ago again repeated. Most of the viceroys or expressed friendly neutrality to the pretender to the throne, or at all sided with him. When the forces of the rebels reached Italy, Vitellius had to be distracted from the feasts, when they were already standing at the gates of Rome, had to listen to their conditions. He just wanted to live, well and tastefully, and so he agreed to resign and hand over power in exchange for life and pension. But Praetorians, threatening weapons, forced the emperor to abandon these ideas, condemning him to death. When Vespasian's supporters took Rome by storm, Aulus indulged in hedonism. At the end, everyone left him, even his servants and slaves. The emperor was found hiding in the gatekeeper's room in the palace. He begged for mercy, tried to appeal for respect. After all, he was the emperor, but it did not save him. Vitellius's blood was to sprinkle the forum to end the war. It didn't matter whether he was forced to break his promises or not. The new emperor was to have no legitimate rivals.